today, if everything goes optimally as per plan, you can get 42 squadron not earlier than 2038. That's very far.
Sir, that's very late, sir.
That's very late. The Chinese have decided that PLA Air Force will have 400 J-20s by 2027. Do we go to 57? Big question mark. Why big question mark? Also that we have already got 60% of Indian Air Force's fighter fleet is Russian origin. Do we really want to go back to them?
Also for the Army and the Navy, sir.
And also for the Army and Navy. Production numbers are still not coming. I'm waiting for the day when 24 aircraft will be made a year. If you really want to meet the 2029 deadline of finishing Mark 1As, because we are really...
Is it possible, sir?
I must tell you that it's not only India needs Americans. Americans need India very much more.
I don't think, sir, that by 2035 we'll have a first squadron ready. We might have one or two jets, but it's going to take time, sir.
I agree.
Assume 3840, sir. I mean, this whole thing about our 126 fighters, this conversation has been going on for donkeys years, sir. I mean, I've been hearing it for I don't know for how long.
Started in 2001. Then we gave up. Initially, Mirage 2000 upgraded variant -5 was to come. Then they said we are closing the factory in 2006.
What should we be looking at, sir, in America? What do you think the Prime Minister should be looking at when he goes and meets President Biden and they discuss defense?
I'm not sure how much of technology is physically going to come. If you want to be sitting on the high table, global power, high table, you must have intellectual property, means invest in R&D.
Hello friends, I'm Gaurav Arya and you're watching GAP, the Gaurav Arya Podcast. Fighter planes have been a topic of hot conversation in India. People talk about 42 squadrons as the sanctioned strength of squadrons in the Indian Air Force. People say without that, we cannot fight a two-front war. And then there is AMCA. You know, India should have its own fifth generation fighter aircraft. But which are the countries that are making fighter aircrafts? Today, we have Air Marshal Anil Chopra with us, former test pilot and DG of CAPS, Center for Air Power Studies, which is the Indian Air Force's think tank. Sir, Jai Hind and a very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. Always a pleasure to be on your show. And you're doing a great job. And
Thank you, sir.
Keep it up.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Privileged to host you, sir. Sir, this whole thing about 42 squadrons, sir, that Air Force must have 42 squadrons. Is this outdated? Do we need more? Is 42 enough? What is this logic of 42, sir?
You know, I must tell you that whenever the country decides how many fighter squadrons it must have, is based on the threat assessment. You know, the figure 42, before that, actually the figure was 39.5. A committee recommended, and then the government of India relooked at the committee report and made it 42 squadrons. 42 squadrons has been there for a long time. There was another Tata committee subsequently which had recommended 60 squadrons. So there are different figures, but the holding figure today remains approved for strength of 42 squadrons. Why 42 squadrons? I know there are many people who have been skeptics, who have been writing that you in the old times you had MiG-21s, now you have Su-30 which can carry 4 times the load, you have Rafales which have got much greater capability. Why do you still require 42 squadrons? See, what has China got? You know, China those days also had MiG-21s and 19s. What do the Chinese have today? J-20s. 5th generation aircraft. 300 of them
deployed,
built.
Deployed. In Tibet.
And in Xinjiang. Sir. So they're physically there and they're coming in large numbers. They build infrastructure. So when we look at threat assessment, look at the numbers of the Pakistan Air Force. Though a much smaller country now and less powerful. But China and Pakistan are the best of friends. They could collude with each other. They are both adversaries to us. Both are nuclear part. So we are the most threatened nation in the world today. So therefore, we must remember my personal assessment, which I write on this subject, that actually speaking for a two-front war, not even two-front war, a single front with China, you require close to 50 squadrons. Look at their numbers. You know, they are trying to build up strengths which are to compete with the Americans. That's their competition.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where the confrontation is going to be for them. So therefore, for us to think, no, they are not going to go to war with America. But all the capability they are building, they can use against India. Taiwan, Japan, and India. We are the 3 countries of concern to them. And we know that. You know, 11 airfields in Tibet and Xinjiang, all infrastructure upgraded. At least 2 of them had significant presence of J-20s. And you know that Pakistan and Chinese are talking with each other. And Pakistan wants a fifth generation aircraft. You talked about AMCA, a fifth generation aircraft.
31, sir?
The J-31, which is under development, which is in final stages. And they're talking of a timeline of 2029. And we all know the timelines of AMCA. But while we are all support, Atmanirbharta, which is very important. If you want to be a global player, if you want to sit on the high table, you must be Atmanirbharta. And defense is where the Atmanirbharta is more critical. And therefore, are AMCA timelines realistic? We are still at the approval stage. When the AMCAs, of course, some metal cutting has started. But physically, the first flight, realistically, may take another 4 years, 5 years.
But that's a prototype, sir.
That's a prototype.
Sir.
From prototype, after you do the testing, reach the series production stage, the most ambitious targets are close to 2035. But my personal feeling, it could be 2038, 2040. Second, the rate at which LCA Mark 1 is, they were to be given to us by Tejas by 31st of March. Now they are, because of the delays in the engine, which has not yet fetched up. It is going to be perhaps November. That's what HAL is saying. That could be even later. The squadron strength is depleting. Last of the MiG-21 squadrons is going to be out next year. That's the one single left. And thereafter, the Jaguars, the Mirages and others are in the queue. Now, if that be the case, today, if everything goes optimally as per plan, you can get 42 squadron not earlier than 2038. That's very far away.
That's very late, sir.
That's very late. And therefore, a lot needs to be done. Some hard decisions have to be taken. If AMCA will become operational between 2035 to 2040, sometimes maybe the first squadron will form in that period. Are we going to wait? I must tell you, the Chinese have decided that PLA Air Force will have 400 J-20s by 2027. By 2035, they will have 1,000 fifth generation aircraft, and then AMCA would not inducted. If that is the kind of threat you are looking at, I think we better get our ideas right.
Absolutely, sir. And one more thing, sir. Yeah. By the time we get our act together and actually have one single squadron of fifth generation fighters, sir.
Yeah.
China would have moved to the sixth generation, sir.
Yes.
And there would have been a small lab somewhere working on or a group of experts, Chinese scientists and engineers working on the seventh generation. They would have inducted the sixth. That is the speed at which they're moving. Now, sir, solutions. Tejas will take time, sir.
Yeah.
Even if the engines are there, let's say all the engines are there, still Tejas will take time. And Tejas, they're saying, is that's a 4.5 generation. So that is what I'm hearing, sir.
Yeah. Mark 2.
Mark 2, sir.
Yeah.
Mark 2 is 4.5, sir. And Mark 2 is still some distance away.
Some distance away, yeah.
Realistically, sir, 2040. Realistically speaking, because there will be delays. Yeah. And it's not that the first time they offer a prototype, the test pilots of the Indian Air Force are going to be so happy and so impressed that they'll say, okay, done. That's not going to happen, sir. Yeah. The Air Force is going to go back and say that, we had given you these criteria and we are not okay with this. Now go back and do this. That's what happens, sir, in the forge, because Air Force will say that we had asked for this and we need this and all, because they're sending men into combat, sir. They're sending pilots into combat.
Absolutely.
It's not a commercial aircraft, sir. I mean, they're going to war.
Yeah.
That is the mindset. Now, my first question is, sir, that this is too much of a gap. Yeah. We are talking about literally 16, 17 years from today when we will have our complete squadron, sir. Let us say 18 planes to a squadron, for example, sir. 18 jets to a squadron. So, it's still 16 years away, for example, sir. Do you think it is time that while AMCA, we need to put in more money, 15,000 crores is peanuts, sir, for a fifth generation aircraft? It's nothing. It's not even $2 billion, sir.
Yeah.
It's nothing. A, put in more money. B, put in more money in research and development of our own engines, so that we are not dependent upon the likes of GE or even Safran, etc. Have our own local Desi engines, which are world class. Yeah. And number 3, sir, what is your view of procuring squadrons off the shelf? So, Russia, 1, America, 2, sir. And then you also have other people who are there in this mix. Let's say Japan says that, we have made one. Turkey's out of the question, sir, but Japan says we've made one and we want to give it. So, I want to ask you, sir, do you think it's a viable alternative? We can get it in 6-7 years, sir.
Yeah.
Even if we sign today, 6-7 years we'll have, or 8 years we'll have our first squadron. of, for example, the F-35, sir? I'm just throwing a name like that. What is your view, sir?
So let me tell you, see, firstly, you rightly said that AMCA is far away. We already know that, AMCA, only the initial metal cutting has started. It's going to take long. It's going to be divided into two parts. AMCA 1 will be a non-stealthy aeroplane. AMCA 2 will be a stealthy aircraft. So you rightly mentioned that after 2035, maybe the first squadron will form. What are the options? What are the J-20? Chinese? We can never get it. So forget it. We had been with the Russians on FGFA program. We walked off because we found that the technologies, the work share was not working out between them. The FGFA, they carried on independently. That became the Su-57.
Sure.
Su-57 is already flying. But what are the numbers? Only 14 aircraft with the Russian Air Force. That means they first flew in 2017 and today they have got only 14 aircraft.
Not even one squadron, sir.
And not even a squadron. They're calling it one unit. But they're physically they are at war. Their whole defense industry is, galvanized for other things. So therefore, do we go to Su-57? Big question mark. Why big question mark? Also that we have already got 60% of Indian Air Force's fighter fleet is Russian origin. Do we really want to go back to them?
Also for the Army and the Navy, sir.
And also for the Army and Navy.
Sir.
Yes. So we're not going to put all the eggs into a single basket. So there is an issue. Plus the technology-wise, some of the Western countries, their avionics, their radars are ahead of what the Russians are going to offer.
Sure.
So Russia option has this big question mark. Do we want to go back to that basket which is already full for us? The next choice is, of course, Turkey is developing the Khan fifth generation fighter. We are not contenders. They are still way behind the other fifth generation programs. So we are left with Americans. Now, you know that Americans refused F-35s were good to go to Turkey. They refused them because they had bought S-400. Same is the logic they are telling us. They also fear that India has got too many Russian systems and therefore they have not yet offered F-35. But there are positives in this. F-30 was for the first time brought at Aero India, last Aero India. Sure. And they flew morning and evening and demonstrated. The fact that they allowed some of us to go and have a look at the aircraft, that means there is some mood change. The Americans have already got into our aircraft ecosystem, that's P-8, TIE, C-17, C-130, the helicopters, Apache, Chinook, the R-60. They have got into the entire...
Apaches, everything.
Apache, everything. They have got into the entire helicopter ecosystem. The only ecosystem they haven't got into in aviation is the fighter aircraft. They are very keen, the MRFA, the 114 new fighters that we are to buy. There are three contenders: the F-18, the F-15, and the F-21. 21, sir. Yes, which are the three contenders, and the Americans would like to push. But our MRFA request for proposal has not even gone. God knows when it will go. So we are, very, very slow at decision making. This process has already eaten up 6 years. 2018, we got the, RFI in. The RFP has still to go. So there is a delay on that. Will the Americans be open to giving us F-35? Question mark. Is India ready to ask for F-35? Another question mark. So my personal feeling. Since the AMCA is going to take a long time to come and certainly become operational, it will be very, very long. We have to think of some alternate. What are the alternates? Let's have a look. So, if the Americans can be convinced and they were to give us 2 squadrons of F-35s as interim 5th generation fighter, one option. Because numbers, and already about 1,000 F-35s have been built. And they are building at a much higher rate because the whole large number of Air Forces, about 20 of them are buying the F-35. So therefore, one option is that. And another option is, the French have realized that they were running a European program called the Future Combat Aircraft System, FCAS. The Japanese are running another consortium trying to look at straight to 6th generation technologies. We could join one of them. But, their timelines are very far. Their timelines are very close to AMCA. I mean, they're all around timelines of 2025. So the issue is timelines. So therefore, you can't. Another approach the French are trying to say, presently we have got the Rafale, which is F3R. The French are inducting the F4 variant, which is already started.
But it's an upgrade of the same one, sir.
Upgrade of the Rafale. No,
Yes.
Rafale, you must remember, is 4.5 generation
Yes.
front hemisphere stealth.
Yes, sir.
Which is not bad. Front hemisphere stealth is better than no stealth.
Sure.
And they are now working on the F5 standard, which will be ready by 2027. So one school of thought is that, okay, forget 5th generation for a short while, carry on, buy more Rafales with upgraded weapons, upgraded radar, upgraded avionics. That's a school. But I personally feel that we have to have finally a 5th generation aircraft. Approaches. I personally feel that AMCA program is so important, critical for this country that it must be taken over directly with the PMO. PMO must exercise direct control over this program. And
Like ISRO, sir. Like ISRO.
Like ISRO. We have done well.
That is why ISRO is efficient, sir.
Absolutely. We are ISRO and nuclear. These two fields are directly controlled by the PMO.
Yes, sir.
So, among all the programs, if AMCA can be monitored and controlled, and also when PMO controls, more funding, more urgency, comes in.
Immediate decision making, sir.
Decision making becomes faster. So, I think that is one option. So, carry on with your AMCA, accelerate it, hasten your LCA. You already opened a third line for LCA in Nasik.
Yes, sir.
But production numbers are still not coming. I'm waiting for the day when 24 aircraft will be made a year. If you really want to meet the 2029 deadline of finishing Mark 1As, because we are really...
Is it possible, sir?
Yeah, it is possible, provided...
You're saying one squadron a year, sir? At least.
Yes, it has... See, Mark 1As are supposed to be 18 aircraft as it is as per original plan. Then only you complete 20 in 29.
Yes, sir.
I'm saying make it 24 aircraft a year. Why I'm saying that is because the backlog is already there. So therefore, you have to increase production that side and take control of decision making in AMCA and put the... I'll tell you honestly that as an operator, that many times the DRDOs, the PSUs, they will give very ambitious targets because they need funding for their projects. But we all know history tells us that there are timelines, they slip, there are issues, as you rightly mentioned, the service will not be happy with the way you have met the specifications. So keeping that in mind, there is a need to accelerate. We are lagging behind.
Sure. So my question here is that, let us say, sir, they've offered us 3 fighters, the Americans. I'll come back to that, sir.
Yeah.
So F-15, sir, that is the Eagle, sir.
Yeah.
Then they're saying that F-18, sir, the Hornet.
Yeah.
And they're saying F-21, which is pretty much the F-16 on steroids. So you have some sort of a DNA of F-22 and F-35 and better avionics and better radar and better this, but essentially the frame and everything is F-16, sir.
Yeah.
I don't think India has the appetite for the F-21. But there is a building consensus slowly and slowly that if we need a fighter aircraft, the best bet is F-35, sir. Now, having said that, sir, my question to you is, should India, you're saying that America has not offered and India has also not asked America that we want to buy the F. So it's both ways, sir.
Yeah.
Neither have we requested them, nor they have offered, sir.
Yeah.
What will it take America to offer us the F-35? Let us say 5 squadrons. So for example, let's get ambitious on this show, sir. Let's say we want 5 squadrons. And we say we have 5 squadrons, and because even Rafale, sir, we just have 2, sir. One in Ambala, one in Hashimara, sir. That's hardly anything, sir. That's hardly anything, sir.
Very little. Yeah.
And they should have, at the onset, sir, gone in for, sir, sir, 2 squadrons mean nothing actually.
Yeah.
When you're facing off against the Chinese and they're saying 1,000 5th generation fighters over a period of time, and we are saying one in Hashimara and one in Ambala, sir.
Absolutely.
That's so.
Yeah, too little.
How do you think, sir, the air chief would be thinking about this situation, sir?
No, I'm sure, if I was the air chief, I'll be having little sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights.
You see, I will tell you, as an air chief, I must fight the war with my plan B, with what I have got, what the nation gives the air chief. He has to plan his fight, and he will bloody well fight well. So there is no doubt about that aspect of it, but numbers, the quality remains an issue. because of the backlog of modernization. And so therefore there is an issue. Now, coming back to your question related, the F-35. Yes, Americans, unlike the French who are business-like, they will charge you more, they'll give you the product thereafter. Even during our nuclear, tests,
Sure.
the French didn't, put any restrictions.
Yes, bother us too much,
sanctions. They didn't bother us. We carried on. And so did many other countries who maintained business-like. But Americans, they have, because of their own internal democratic system and their geopolitical requirements, they can put some conditions. Now, if we were to ask them F-35 or they were to offer, it can have some caveats. They could be wanting us to distance a little more from the Russians. Let's be practical. The umbilical cord that we have connected with the Russians over the last 50, 60 years, it can't be severed just like that. It'll take us 20, 25, 30 years. Our Su-30s are today 45% of Indian Air Force's fighter aircraft are Su-30s. Single type. And
so
then
you can't just write a check and say that kal se F-15 honge.
But luckily, the American security establishment, fully understand that we can't disconnect from area. But they would certainly, mind you, till 2008, we had no platform from the Americans. Today, see the number of platforms that we have got between the Army, Navy, Air Force.
Absolutely.
From the Pasha, the Army is getting the Pasha.
Yes.
So my contention is that all of a sudden, because of the global Indo-Pacific, geopolitics, they are, keen. But, unlike the Australians, the Japanese, the Americans don't trust India as much because, India wants to maintain, strategic autonomy. It wants to continue to lead the global South in its own way.
America doesn't like that, sir.
That Americans, they're clear, this way or that way. Either it's a cross or a zero. So that kind of approach, when it's 1 or 0, then that is an approach we have to be cautious of. There are many people in our country,
yes, sir,
scholars, who feel that you should always trade with the Americans with a little care. Yes.
Sir, yes, that is one, sir, because of their past. The Americans are not the most reliable of friends. But the fact of the matter is, faced with this looming threat of China, sir, we need some urgent action. Do you think if India orders, because the Prime Minister month end will be in the US, sir.
Correct. Absolutely.
The Prime Minister is going to be there, sir. And I think defense partnership will form a very, very important part of our relationship with the Americans. So the Americans say that, all right, put your money where your mouth is. I'm just thinking aloud, sir. The Americans say, all right, India, put your money where your mouth is. And you say that you want the F-35, for example. First, you need to commit to 4.5 generation fighter jets. So you have the choice between, let us say, the F-18, sir, or you have a choice between the F-15 Eagles, sir. So let us say we say, okay, made in India, Atmanirbharta, transfer of technology, 50%, 100%, 80%, whatever, and land here, building here, you start manufacturing here. That could be a convincing argument to get the F-35 because we have to have, sir, in the next 5 to 7 years, we must have a 5th generation fighter.
Undoubtedly, Gaurav, politically, Prime Minister Modi and the American establishment and the entire security system, the two countries are very, very closely talking to each other. I must tell you that it's not only India needs Americans. Americans need India very much more.
Yes, sir.
Because there is no Indo-Pacific strategy without India.
Correct, sir.
India has to handle Indian Ocean. And then only Japan, Australia and others can handle the South China Sea. In fact, we are in a position, if we develop the way we are planning Andaman's, Su-30 will be able to, with one refueling, be in the middle of South China Sea. So that is the importance of India. And that's why Americans do want us to spend more. So actually speaking, if some back channel discussions go on and some give and take takes place, Americans will be ready to bend to give you F-35. Now, their concerns about S-400. Are they very serious concerns? Can they be circumvented? Can we have some means, that to coexist? Because we can't do anything about S-400. It's very important for us. It's there.
You paid the money, sir.
We paid the money. In any case, it's coming now.
Yes, sir.
And so therefore, the Americans have reconciled to this.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, there is it is such a possibility very much exists. Now, between whether we should, they'll insist on buying few squadrons of but for us, logistically, we can't have too many types of aeroplanes. Indian Air Force has got already such a large variety of fighter aircraft. It's a nightmare for an Air Force to build up spares, to have different procedures for
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. A week back, we had Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, sir, from the Kumaur Regiment.
Yeah.
And what you're facing in the Air Force, or you think you'll be facing in the Air Force, the Army is facing with rifles, sir.
Yeah.
So we have an INSAS 5.56, we have an AK series 7.62.
Yeah.
And then, sir, even small arms, rifles, 9mm, there are a variety of calibers.
Yeah.
So you're saying that too many, so I'm just, that is a separate thing and this is a separate thing.
No, absolutely, but it's a fact.
It's a logistical nightmare, sir.
It's a nightmare, absolutely. So therefore,
which jet should we go with, sir? That's my question. If you have to have only two, and Sukhois will, after a period of time, phase out.
My personal opinion is
Sir.
that we buy more Rafales so that one type, and make in India. Because if the Indian Navy has to choose Rafale M, which I believe they have already done.
They've done, sir. Yes.
If they have done, then they require 26 of them. Tomorrow they can require more.
Yes, sir.
And Indian Air Force can also initially go for 4 or 5 squadrons more and to complete your original 126. Make them in India. Upgrade them in India. So remains.
126 ka kya logic hai? Why 126, sir?
No, 6
It's like 7 squadrons, 6 squadrons, something like that.
That's right. It evolved from number of squadrons and some spares, where you have something called war wastage rate.
Yes, sir, WWS, yes.
So, because of
war
that.
equipment.
War wastage rate. So, my contention is that you already got 2 bases and each base can take 2 squadrons of Rafale. You will have to build up another 1 or 2 bases. Navy will build a commonality of spares. Make in India will become realistic. So do the 114, accelerate LCA, AMCA, and buy 2 squadrons of F-35 from Americans if they are willing to give.
How many squadrons of Rafale then, sir?
Complete 126.
126 Rafales.
Because 36 are there, another 90, you will make 26. The Navy will.
So let's say 10 squadrons of Rafales. So
all together, including.
Broadly speaking. Sir.
Yeah, that's
10
it.
squadrons. That should do the job.
That should do the job. And that by that time, LCA Mark IIs will be inducting. Hopefully the Mirages will be due out. So will the MiG-29s be due. So those will be filled up by that. We need numbers. We need numbers yesterday. We are.
We can't wait till 40, sir.
We can't wait till 40.
So my question to you is, you have a 4th generation fighter, sir?
Yeah.
Or 4.5, let's say the Rafale, and your 5th generation. Apart from stealth, let us say we remove the stealth thing in F-35 or let's say J-20, sir, since China is churning them out like cookies. Apart from stealth, what is the main differentiator?
No, in 5th generation aircraft, one is that whole aircraft is built around stealth. That means body shaping, paints, composites, everything is
negligible signature on the radar, sir. Negligible.
He will be seen so late that he would have already released his weapon, or he would have already turned back. So that is the aim of good stealth aircraft. Should not be seen till he has already launched his weapon. That is why you have so much of emphasis.
I was reading somewhere, sir, that the F-35 has the signature of a golf ball, sir.
Yeah, that's what they are.
It's like a golf ball. You don't even know it's such a huge, massive.
Yeah, normally the signature from front hemisphere, sides and all is slightly different. But you're right. All kinds of figures are being given.
Yes,
in fact, there are future aircraft which are under development. People are saying they'll be this RCS will be that of a B. So fine. So my contention, but mind you, stealth is easier to talk in studios. Stealth is very complex. It's very expensive to develop. It's very expensive to maintain. The Americans have got only 4 air bases in whole of USA where stealth can be maintained, and it's costly to maintain stealth.
But do we have a choice, sir?
Yeah. So, but we have to go for stealth because that is where the future is. As I said, the immediate threat to us, China is going to have 1,000 of them, and Pakistan is also wanting to have some. Then there's no choice on that. So we have to go for stealth. We have to accelerate our own stealth program, but interim we must buy whether it's 2 squadron or 4 squadron, that the country will take a call. But certainly we will have to buy, some interim 5th generation aircraft. Yes.
Sure. So what actually worries me in the long run is that we're leaving the window wide open, sir.
Yeah.
Let us say 2040, for example, sir, 2035, 2040, sir. Till the time we have our first squadron ready, and I don't think, sir, that by 2035 we'll have a first squadron ready. We might have 1 or 2 jets, but it's going to take time, sir.
I agree.
Assume 3840, sir. 2040 we have a first 5th generation, right, sir? Do we leave the entire
15 years?
Yes, sir. 15 years blank, sir. I mean, tomorrow China could launch from tomorrow. We're sitting in September, sir.
Yeah.
This is September.
Yeah.
First
October
week
is the campaign time.
October is the campaign time, sir.
Yeah.
Let's say China says, and their locations are just 150 kilometers
North of Hashimara. Yeah.
which is for a
north of the border.
north of the line of actual control, sir. So, what is 150 kilometers for the Air Force? It's nothing, sir. It's peanuts for an Air Force jet.
It is. I agree with you. In fact, I have zoomed in on, Google Earth to the air bases, both next to Lhasa, as well as Hotan, where these fellows are going to be there sitting. Hotan is just not too far from Leh.
Yes, sir.
So they are built a lot of infrastructure. Threat is there. It's known. I hope, is understood by the security establishment very, very clearly. Time is to act and act very, very quickly.
And decisively, sir.
And decisively. Surely.
Write big checks, whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
If you want F-15s, for example, sir, F-15s, say, okay, 5 squadron done, make in India, whatever you have to do. Sir, I mean, this whole thing about our 126 fighters, this conversation has been going on for donkeys years, sir. I mean, I've been hearing it for, I don't know for how long.
Started in 2001. Then we gave up. Initially, Mirage 2000 upgraded variant -5 was to come. Then they said we are closing the factory in 2006. Then we started the MRCA program now with these 6-7 other contenders where Rafale came in.
Sure.
And all the decision making and what all issues we had to go to courts to, once Rafale was selected. So that's a problem. I think when it comes to security issues and foreign policy, the political setup must come together. There should never be an issue. Till today, they're questioning Rafale. I mean, this is very unfortunate. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Rafale is just a requirement that we need. We have to have it, sir.
Now we have no choice because we have already chosen.
Yes, sir.
And now not to have yet another fleet because 36 is not a big number. It's too small a number.
Sure.
If you really want to have a significant fleet of any time. I'll give you an example. It's not the first time we bought 2 squadrons. Sure. When we bought the Su-7s, only 2 squadrons.
That's long time, actually.
Long time back. I'm talking 60s.
Yes, sir.
But we bought 6-7 squadrons later. What did we do with MiG-23s? We bought 2 squadrons. Then we bought many more 23s, 6 squadrons. Thereafter, we made 8 squadrons of MiG-27s. So we always started with small numbers. So you started with 2 squadrons, go to 6, 8, whatever numbers you want to have of the Rafale, and choose an American fighter for 5th generation like AMCA. I think and I'm telling you, I've spoken to many people, rational thinking Americans. I mean, I said, if you were in my chair, what would you do? And they said, what you're saying absolutely makes sense because you can't keep having more and more numbers, little pockets of different aircraft. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is, something that has always worried me a little when I think about it, is that there is a Russian ecosystem that we have which is thriving, sir. And I'm talking about fighters now, sir.
Yeah.
There is one Russian ecosystem and then there is one American or Western ecosystem. In the Western ecosystem, so we've always had the Western ecosystems largely French. Yeah. Largely French, whether it's Mirage or whether it's things from Dassault.
Tufani and
all that. Yes, sir, Mr. Days, sir. So Dassault Aviation essentially.
Yeah.
Now, if we are to have an American ecosystem, let us say we say that, F-18s or whatever we order, how difficult it is for the Russian ecosystem in the Indian Air Force and the American ecosystem in the Indian Air Force to talk to each other, sir.
No. I will tell you first. Firstly, there are only two major companies in US for fighters: Boeing and the Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin.
Between these three aircraft, two are Boeing's, one is Lockheed Martin's.
Sure.
So that somebody will do the technical analysis, which is better. Yes, the F-15 is a larger aircraft, closer to Su-30. Do we want more Su-30 class of sized aircraft, or we want smaller ones, which means the F-21 or F-18? So that is talking. We have got French Rafales. We have got American, so many aeroplanes flying now in India. So we have had Russian aircraft for such a long time. As far as the pilots and technicians are concerned, nothing changes. The system is same. When I went to Russia, I was posted as the leader of the MiG-21 Upgrade. I met many French and American pilots. I've trained in France on Mirage 2000. The basic crew room and operational requirements are similar in all countries. So there is no issue. What is different is the logistics. The way we procure, our procurement system, the Russian is a very different, old Soviet type of system. If I want a spare part from Switzerland or from France, I can go to their catalog online and, order, and things can happen much, much faster. That's why traditionally the serviceability of Russian systems have been relatively less. Why? Because the turnaround cycle for a CAD-D to go from India, repaired in Russia and come back could be as much as 18 months. So therefore, now you compare the serviceability state of F-16s, Mirage 2000s and the MiG-29s over the last 25, 30 years, and you will find nearly 15% higher serviceability of the Western system. Because so much easier, so much faster. Of course, it costs much more. The Russian aircraft initial costs are much, much lesser.
But their engine life is also less, sir.
Engine life is less. They are fuel guzzlers. The MiG-29 engine, of course, even leaves such a smoke trail that you can see it from miles. We all know that what are they? Because for Russians, they wanted brute thrust. And, they didn't bother about the fuel consumption. But their thrust and all was very fantastic, absolutely. The way the Su-30 maneuvers at the air displays, no aircraft in the world can maneuver like that. So those are those separate issues. So my contention is that there will be no issue of this transition because we have already transited with a large number of Western systems already flying in India. If the Mi-26 was flying heavy lift helicopter.
Yes, I've understood now, sir, where you're going, sir. I've understood. So now you're flying the Chinook, sir. And that's okay.
Yeah, so that's
okay. You had the M25, now you're also flying the Apache, sir.
So same boys, same squadron, same culture.
Yes.
They're flying, only the systems are different, equipment is different. So that's all. So this can be handled. Not a big deal.
Right, sir. Sir, my last question to you is, sir, where do you see this going? I mean, I would request you to crystal gaze now and tell us.
Yeah.
How do you think? Because Prime Minister's visit to the US is very important. And as somebody who is a very keen student of geopolitics, sir, this one thing which I'll be watching out for.
Yeah.
Now, very recently, I think 1.5 lakh crores approval has been given by this, by that. So
therefore,
yesterday only, sir.
Yes.
Or day before, something like that. So they have given that. So now, what should we be looking at, sir, in America? What do you think the Prime Minister should be looking at when he goes and meets President Biden and they discuss defense?
Good thing about our Prime Minister is every time he visits, that he has lots of side meetings with the heads of critical industries. We require support for chips. The chips required for all defense items. A missile requires a chip. So does a aircraft and everything.
Yes.
So he's talking to those companies who are making, chips. So we need from America higher end technology. I'll give you them. There are 5 technologies which are critical for future: hypersonic, electronic warfare, cyber, AI and quantum, and directed energy weapons, and of course engines. This is what we need help from. Mind you, we have gone ahead and signed for 414 to be built in India, G414. I'm not sure how much of technology is physically going to come. Is it just going to be they're going to teach us how to make components, produce, and then assemble them together? Because ultimately, India has to have an engine where we have the intellectual property, right?
But we don't spend on R&D, sir.
We don't spend on R&D.
So we can't have an
So
engine.
therefore, two aspects. We must seek from America a list of key technologies, which has been spoken at the USIBC level again and again. Everybody knows what are the technologies India doesn't have. It will take us long to develop. It's better to get them from America. That list is already there between them. And the Prime Minister will. Only thing is, how will you prioritize? Is aero engine our higher priority? Then that must be. Now, in this whole exercise of technology transfer, the Americans are bound to say, then what are you buying from us? Means they could be saying, they could be pushing for a fighter aircraft that you may want to buy. These are the calls which have to be done across the table.
Are they withholding the GE engine because they want to create scarcity, so we go and buy their fighters?
I'm not very sure. Honestly, there are some people who are giving this impression, when they are writing. I'm not sure that is the case.
I've been reading about this, therefore.
Yeah, I know. Even I've read.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that is the case. Normally, the companies, their reputations are at issue. They should not. That could not be their lane. But I have my input is that perhaps GE had already warned India that these timelines that you are trying to push cannot be achieved because GE makes a lot of components of the GE engine comes from their vendors.
Yes, sir.
So
who are not in America,
or in America, or even if they are in America, they have everybody has got their own queues, logistic queues. So maybe that is could be one of the reasons, but I'm not sure. I don't think that this will be a reason to arm twist us.
Sure.
There are so many other ways to arm twist India or any country.
Yes, sir.
So
but you agree, sir. But you agree, and with this I'll close, sir. But you agree that in the long term, we need to own our own supply chains.
Absolutely.
You will agree, sir.
There is no doubt. Not only that, you have to have intellectual property.
Yes, sir.
For every guy that I meet within the private industry, I tell them what in your part is made and designed in India. You can buy, there are over 100 drone startups.
Sure.
If they're buying most of the components from outside and just putting them together, now that is not intellectual property because, it's called reverse engineering.
Yes.
So my contention is that intellectual property, if you want to be sitting on the high table, global power high table, you must have intellectual property means invest in R&D.
That is where American power comes from, sir.
Now, DRDO, you're paying salaries. It's a government salary. You can't have the GTRE head getting the Secretary of India's, salary. That's not the salary at which he is going to make a GE class of engine for you. You have to get... so therefore, my last point I want to mention is that DRDO must carry on their R&D work, must for every project must have a private company or couple of them as partners at all stages.
Sure.
So that it's easier for a private company to invest, to get loans, to get, technology transfer. They're big companies. Adani, Reliance, they're all into, Adani is already big into UAVs.
Yes, sir.
And Tata are very big into, such a large number of projects. So the Bharat Forge and many other companies.
You want a commitment on R&D, sir, from these big players.
Yes, that these people...
That we thereby commit these many $1 billion a year to R&D.
And you have to invest in that.
You have to invest.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, sir.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what sir has spoken about, and he's told us why we need a 5th generation fighter, how China is actually building its J-20s, and of course the J-31, which is going to come up sooner than later, at such fantastic levels, and we do not have an aircraft of that stature right now. We need an aircraft, we need a 5th generation aircraft, and we also spoke about IP and supply chains and how R&D is very important. I hope you did like this podcast, and if you did, please write in the comments below. Sir, thank you very much, sir, for your time, and it was an honor and a privilege to host you, and we hope to have you very soon again, sir, on our podcast, and thank you for coming, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Gaurav. Always a pleasure. Thank you.